calls to action that convert B2B prospects. Why B2B CTAs decide who books meetings. In B2B Outbound, the call to action is the moment your messaging either turns into momentum or dies quietly in a crowded inbox. You can have the right list, strong personalization, and a compelling pain point, but if the ask is unclear or too heavy, prospects won't take the next step. That's why CTAs are one of the highest leverage fixes for any SDR program. We see this constantly across cold email, cold calling, LinkedIn outreach, and landing pages. Most teams spend hours polishing positioning, then end the message with, "Thoughts?" or "Want to chat?" That isn't a CTA. It's a vague invitation with no clear outcome. A strong CTA makes the next step obvious, measurable, and easy to say yes to. At SalesHive, our SDR agency teams treat CTAs like a conversion system, not a line of copy. After booking 100,000 plus meetings for 1,500 plus B2B clients, we've learned that the best CTAs aren't pushy. They're specific, low friction, and matched to buyer stage. When your CTA is right, average messages suddenly start creating pipeline. The buyer reality: digital first, time poor, and highly selective. Even in 2025, email remains the preferred channel for many B2B buyers, with 73% still saying it's how they want to be contacted. That's good news for any cold email agency or outbound sales agency, but it also raises the bar. Buyers are scanning quickly, and they're ruthless about what earns a reply. Your CTA is often the only part they process in full. At the same time, buyer expectations have shifted toward independence and relevance. Gartner reports 61% of B2B buyers prefer a rep-free experience, and many actively avoid suppliers sending irrelevant outreach. So a hard book a demo CTA on a first touch can feel tone-deaf. The winning move is to make your CTA feel helpful, optional, and clearly tied to their world. Landing pages show what happens when the one clear action principle is taken seriously. B2B landing pages convert at about 13.28% on average versus 9.87% for B2C, largely because the offer and CTA are aligned around one decision. If your outbound and landing experience aren't built around a focused next step, you're leaving revenue on the table. A simple framework: one action, right size, clear value. High-converting B2B CTAs tend to follow the same structure: one observable action, a request that matches trust level, and a value exchange that's obvious inside the ask. "Can we do a demo?" is an action, but it's often the wrong size for cold outreach. "Open to a 10-minute sanity check to see if this is even relevant" is smaller, clearer, and easier to accept. The easiest way to improve CTAs is to stop thinking in terms of getting a meeting and start thinking in terms of earning the next micro-commitment. In early touches, you're earning permission to continue, permission to send something, or a quick yes/no. Later, after engagement, you can earn time on the calendar, introductions to stakeholders, or a deeper discovery session. Use the table below as a practical guide to right-sizing your ask by context, especially if you manage an outsourced sales team that spans multiple channels. Channel playbooks: cold email, cold calling, LinkedIn, and landing pages. Cold email is where most teams over-ask. If you're running sequences as a B2B sales agency or sales development agency, start with reply-based CTAs that make responding effortless. A quick yes/no, a wrong person redirect, or permission to send a relevant asset. Links and calendars can work, but they're often better after you've earned engagement, not before. In B2B cold calling, you can be more direct because you have real-time feedback and can adjust. A good cold calling services script doesn't jump straight to book a demo, but it does guide toward a clear next step. A short scheduled conversation, a second call with the right stakeholder, or agreement on what information would make a follow-up worthwhile. The best cold callers also make the CTA conditional. If this isn't relevant, we'll stop, so prospects don't feel trapped. On LinkedIn, the CTA should fit the platform's tone and pace. Think lightweight engagement first, then a short conversation, then a meeting. For landing pages, the rule is even stricter. One page, one goal, one primary CTA. Because you're not talking to the prospect, you're asking them to act. When we build outbound programs, we align every touch point so the CTA in the email matches the CTA on the page and the CTA the SDR uses live. A CTA isn't where you ask for what you want, it's where you offer the prospect the easiest next step that still moves the deal forward. Make CTAs easy to notice and even easier to say yes to. Most prospects don't read, they scan. That's why visual hierarchy matters in email and on-page experiences, especially when you're competing inside a 5.1% average B2B email click-through environment. If the CTA is buried at the bottom, you're betting everything on a buyer who has time and patience, which is rarely the case. Buttons help because they turn the action into a clear, tappable object. In tests, using a CTA button instead of a text link can lift click-through rates by about 28%, and above-the-fold placement compounds that advantage because it meets scanners where they are. If you send HTML emails, treat your primary CTA like a conversion element, not a formatting choice. In practice, we recommend writing CTAs that reduce mental load, offer 2 time windows, ask 1 question, or provide a single next step. When a CTA feels like work, multiple links, multiple asks, or an ambiguous thoughts, busy buyers postpone it indefinitely. Clarity wins because it respects the buyer's attention. Common CTA mistakes that quietly kill outbound performance. The most common mistake is competing CTAs. Book time, watch a demo, read a case study, and reply with questions in the same message or page. That feels helpful, but it forces the buyer to decide how to decide, and many won't. In conversion testing, single CTA layouts have shown lifts up to 371% versus experiences with multiple competing CTAs, which is why we pick 1 primary action per touch. The second mistake is generic asks that ignore context. Can we hop on a call? Sounds polite, but it doesn't explain why the call is worth their time, and it doesn't fit the buyer's role. Personalized CTAs can outperform generic CTAs by 202%, which is a strong argument for tailoring the ask to the prospect's function, current initiatives, and likely objections. The third mistake is mismatching the ask to the stage, like requesting a full demo in a first-touch email or asking for a quick intro after the prospect has clearly signaled evaluation intent. This is where sales outsourcing and outsourced sales partnerships can either shine or fail. If your team follows a rigid script, CTAs won't match reality. The fix is to map CTAs to stages and train SDRs to move up or down based on buyer signals. How to operationalize CTAs inside your SDR motion. If you want CTAs to be a repeatable growth lever, you need more than a few good lines. You need a documented CTA library by persona and stage, plus rules for what counts as a primary CTA in each touch. This is especially important for an outsourced B2B sales model where consistency and coaching are what make performance scalable across an SDR team. Testing is the difference between opinions and outcomes. We recommend A/B testing 1 element at a time: CTA size, CTA wording, time ask, 10 versus 15 minutes, and value framing, while keeping targeting constant. When our teams run multi-channel campaigns, we use controlled experimentation so we can confidently roll winning CTAs into templates across cold email, B2B cold calling services, and LinkedIn outreach services. At SalesHive, we operationalize CTA work by pairing our SDR teams, US-based and Philippines-based, with our AI engine, eMod, to personalize messaging at scale without letting CTAs drift into randomness. That means our clients get the best of both, high relevance and a tight set of proven asks that are easy to coach, measure, and improve. If you're evaluating an SDR agency, B2B sales outsourcing partner, or outbound sales agency, ask how they test and standardize CTAs, because that's where predictable meeting volume comes from. Next steps: build a CTA system that keeps working as buyers evolve. Buyer behavior is continuing to push towards self-serve and lower friction engagement, which means CTAs must feel more like helpful navigation than sales pressure. If you're selling into larger accounts, assume more stakeholders and more internal alignment work, and design CTAs that progress the group, not just one individual. The best CTAs earn small commitments that create internal momentum. A practical rollout is straightforward. Audit your current sequences and scripts, pick one primary CTA per touch, and rewrite early-stage CTAs to be smaller and more specific. Then instrument tracking so you can see where conversion drops, replies, clicks, booked meetings, and show rates. Within a few weeks, most teams can spot obvious CTA bottlenecks and fix them without changing their entire pitch. If you want a faster path, our team can plug in as a cold calling agency, cold email agency, or full sales outsourcing partner to run the testing loop for you. We'll align CTAs across outreach and landing pages, keep the program measurable, and iterate until meeting production stabilizes. That's how CTAs stop being copywriting nice-to-haves and become a durable lever for pipeline.